Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. It's time to begin, and we're going to start off our gathering with a song. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest musician, Derek Webb. Derek is a 30 plus year music industry veteran. He has sold millions of albums as a founding member of Texas based folk rock band Caveman's Call and ruffled political and spiritual feathers alike during his over 25-year solo career. His latest project, Survival Songs, is a powerful response to the urgent need for comfort, courage, and empowerment, especially for queer and trans youth facing growing threats in today's culture. See his full bio and ways to contact with him in the chat. We now welcome Derek Webb with his first song of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all. And this is a song that's on that Survival Songs collection, and it's called Queer Kid. Growing up, she heard about the end times, but they never felt so close. If showing love could make you a criminal and wearing your own clothes, she got up, went to school as if it wasn't burning down. She looked at a friend, said with a smirk, I guess we're illegal now. And what was it about her heart that scared those men so much? Queer kid, where you gonna live now? Good kid, always getting kicked out of every place. You're not safe to be just who you are. Coming up, she knew about the balance, that it was hard to get it right. Kind defense or a patient fist and safety in the fight. But overnight the whole world was changing, just like a tape stuck in reverse. But if you have a good heart and a little mascara, you can push back on the curves. So with a girlfriend on her arm, she marched into the light. Queer kid, where you gonna live now? Good kid, always getting kicked out of every place. You're not safe to be just who you are. And brave kid, only you define you. So hey kid, we're right behind you. So make your way, say your name and show them who you are. Even the president's treating you like a bad stepdad, thinking everything that makes you different makes him look bad. And maybe there's a law, squeeze you so tight, make you hate your body, give up the fight and just die. Why don't they call it what it is? Wholesale gendercide, aim right at the kids, while their own holy book says love your enemies, and all the little children let them come unto me. Meanwhile, they're so busy changing all the rules, building up the kingdom using all the devil's tools. They forgot the way history will show just what they did. By then there'll be green grass growing on the grave of that queer kid. Oh, where you gonna live now? Good kid, always getting kicked out of every place. You're not safe to be just who you are. Queer kid, only you define you. So hey kid, we're right behind you. So make your way, say your name and show them who you are. Well hey kid, where you gonna live now? Brave kid, don't you turn the shine down.
Derek, that was
Pardon me.
really beautiful,
Thank
really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that song.
thank you.
I'm so excited that we will get to hear more music from you later in the service. Welcome to Virtual Speakeasy. I am Sherry Ransom, a grateful member here at Speakeasy. Our mission is as follows. Speakeasy is a diverse and progressive spiritual community sharing a message of love and engaging in conversations that inspire creative expression and spiritual well-being. We honor the Divine Mother and follow the teachings of A Course in Miracles and the principles of love. We see you as a unique expression of love capable of divine embodiment. Here at Speakeasy, truth is our passion, love is our religion, care is our currency, and peace is our goal. We attempt to speak easily about tough and tender topics so that we can navigate life with greater wisdom and grace. We devote this service to the Divine Mother, Mary Magdalene, Jesus, Buddha, and to all the holy names of God, to all saints and enlightened teachers as well as their teachings, specifically the teachings of A Course in Miracles. We welcome you, and we are so glad you are here. We are a spiritual community with a global message, and we invite you to help share the message. If you received a reminder text today and you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, just copy, paste, and text them the invite. It's that easy. Everyone likes to be invited. It's so great to be here with you this morning. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is your second time, welcome back. Our hope is that you make this your spiritual home and join us every Sunday morning. Our spiritual community is a place to connect. We'd love to be able to recognize you by name. So if you are comfortable, please add your name on your Zoom profile. So what's going to happen this morning? Before we get to the talk and the community conversations, Mari D'Alessio will be sharing invitations and announcements, followed by Maureen Muldoon leading us in prayer and meditation. And then we have the talk, the community offering, and the conversation. In this conversation, we encourage you not to leave your brains, your beliefs, or your background at the door. We don't have all the answers, but we love the questions. So now that you have a roadmap about the flow of our gathering, I'll pass it to Mari for our announcements.
Good day to all. Welcome to SpeakEasy. We are a virtual community offering daily classes and events on Zoom to support you through your spiritual journey during the week. Some of the highlights that I would like you to participate in this week and consider joining us. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Central. You can join for the study of A Course in Miracles, the textbook. It is led by Sherry Ransom, and it's open to anyone interested in learning more about the course and diving a little bit deeper. And you can be new and just curious or a veteran of A Course in Miracles. So join us. That's Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Central. On July 1st at 6:45 a.m. Central, we are going to begin the next session of Miracles Life 365. If you're wondering, what is Miracles Life 365? It is an opportunity for you to start your day with a group that is willing to work the lessons of A Course in Miracles with humor and compassion. We bring all those places in our lives that are getting us out of peace and lovingly work together through the lessons of the Course and really get to that place of peace. We gather on Zoom, and if you miss the lessons live, you have the opportunity to listen to the recordings later on your own time. So I invite you to consider investing in learning and practicing how to come back to peace and joy every day by joining our tribe. So you can see all of the events. We do have other classes and events happening throughout the week. So look at our calendar of events. You will see the link in the chat, or you can always go to our calendar of events in our website at speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. Thank you.
Hi there. Good morning. So good to be here today with this conversation and with the celebration of Pride Month. So this was a prayer from Transparent Love, the show that I toured with for a little while. And this was just a prayer that came out of it for parents like myself who are raising trans kids. So I wrote it for parents, but then today I rewrote it for community. So I invite you to join me in this communal prayer. Thank you for your perfection, divine, for choosing us to assist in delivering these perfect souls. We will not abort this invitation, but instead stand in awe at the divine opportunity to witness the unconditional nature of your love in us and as us and all of your creations. Bless us as we shed the old forms and embrace the new. Help us to be at peace as we stand in the labor pains of your truth, birthing. Help us to be your loyal midwives for love. Give us courage as we navigate this new path. Give us patience as we witness the revelations and evolutions of this beautiful soul and these beautiful souls who know their worth and their way. Help us to trust your process and hold the space for all who are called to live in greater authenticity and transparency. And help us to be fearless allies for our children and for all children, even the ones who fear and hide and hate. Today we know that you are alive in us, in our children, and in all things, and that we will be blessed by our dedication to this unconditional love. I invite you to take a moment to look within, to close your eyes, and maybe invite in any person that you have been holding outside of your heart. You don't need to forget them or forgive them or fear them today, but you can dedicate this time, this practice, this conversation to a willingness to have it healed. And in that healing, amplify the love that's in your heart. So we'll be here for one moment. I'll mind the time. I bless this service, I bless this talk, I bless this conversation, and I let it be, and I pass.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer, Maureen. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, Jerome Imhoff. Jerome is a spiritual teacher, illumination guide, career coach, a practitioner of different modalities, podcaster, as well as a dedicated student of A Course in Miracles. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, Jerome is committed to celebrating diversity and believes in promoting radical acceptance of himself and others. His work is not about changing anyone, but instead is focused on a belief that each of us is not only perfect, whole, and complete, but also a unique and unrepeatable expression of the divine. You can find his full bio and ways to contact him in the chat. And we now get to hear from Jerome Imhoff.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you for this, to the entire SpeakEasy community for this invitation. In the quiet of your heart, I invite you to receive these words by Albert Camus. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. Winter came for me on March 27th, 2000. It was a Monday afternoon. I was sitting at the piano in my classroom, transcribing music for a student opera. And I had just earlier in that day played the piano for the funeral of the elementary principal whom I adored, who had hired me to teach at St. Elizabeth Seton School. So I was sitting at my piano, just enjoying a quiet moment, still feeling kind of sad. And the middle school superintendent or principal stopped by my classroom and told me that he and I needed to meet with the superintendent of the schools later in the day. And I asked him what the meeting was about. And he said, oh, there's some parents who are complaining about your grading system for your humanities class. And so I really didn't think anything of that. I just thought, oh, I can defend that easily. And I went about my day, and at the appointed time, the principal stopped by my classroom and we walked together across the parking lot to the high school where the superintendent's office was. And I walked into his office and he asked me to sit down in a chair. And then he handed me a letter. And the letter had been written by an anonymous concerned father. And this letter outed me as a gay man. I had been seen at a place in town. It was an adult bookstore, which was frequented by gay men. Someone had observed me there and had written this letter saying that if I were not immediately removed from my teaching post, he would go to the bishop of the diocese. But there was one sentence of the letter that haunted. He wrote, "I lie awake at night, worried about the young boys that Mr. Imhoff has contact with." So not only was he outing me as a gay man, but he was implying that because I was gay, I must certainly be a threat to my students. The school board was going to meet, so this was Monday, the school board was going to meet on Wednesday. And they were going to decide my fate. I taught Tuesday, but that was the last day I was in the classroom, because on Wednesday, when the school board met, they asked for my resignation in a unanimous decision. At the time, I was going through a divorce, so the closet I had built for myself came complete with a marriage to a woman whom I adored. To this day, we're the best of friends. I loved her deeply, even though I knew at the time that we were married that I was gay. But I didn't know that there was any way for me to live authentically in Western South Dakota, where I lived. The messages that I was receiving were so powerful that I wasn't good enough. And so I married, believing that it was my calling as a good Catholic person to be married, knowing that the marriage meant I would be sacrificing a huge part of who I am, but being okay with that because it was the way to holiness. So on Wednesday, I was told that I would no longer be teaching. On Saturday, I went to clean out my classroom of all of my personal belongings. Never had an opportunity to say goodbye to my students or to the faculty. Just in one fell swoop, it was over. So you can imagine that I spent the next few days, weeks, months totally devastated. Just feeling it like in the most dark place in my life. Shame, guilt, depression, all the things. But because I'm a man of faith, I felt called to pray. And this is our year of prayer here at SpeakEasy. So I felt called to pray, but I thought, how in the world can I pray to God to fix this mess that I've created for myself? I knew that I wasn't living authentically. I didn't think there was any other option. And so I thought, how can I pray? I can't ask God to fix anything. I really effed this up. This is me. This is on me. And then I remembered somebody had once told me, had shared with me a quote by Meister Eckhart that said, if the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, it will be enough. And so that became my prayer. And even that was difficult because I thought, I don't have a whole lot to be grateful for. I mean, my life felt like a mess. Like the life I'd created for myself was totally in upheaval. My wife had moved out. I was no longer teaching. But I mustered up the strength within me just to say thank you. Thank you that I'm still breathing. Thank you that my family still loves me. Thank you that my friends are still being supportive. And in that prayer, the operative word was often still. And I began to realize that as messy as my life appeared, I was still being blessed. And as feeble as my gratitude was, it led me to the other side of that shame and guilt. And I remember a day, months later, when I was sitting on the sofa, the hand-me-down sofa in the duplex that I had once shared with my wife in Rapid City, South Dakota. I was sitting on the sofa and something welled up inside me. And I said to myself, I don't know how this is going to happen, but come hell or high water, from this day forward, I will live a beautiful life. And then I started to laugh, and I said it aloud. From this day forward, I will live a beautiful life. And I'm here to tell you I have. I've come to realize that gratitude is a superpower. And Deepak Chopra has referred to gratitude as the feeling tone, which is most aligned with abundance. And he even says that it is the portal to abundance consciousness. And what I've come to learn is there's this beautiful dialogue with us and the divine. We express gratitude, and God showers us with grace. That's the exchange. And it's so profoundly beautiful and perfect. I've learned that there's sort of 4 levels of gratitude, or 4 stages of gratitude, and these are just reflective of our spiritual journey, from perception to knowledge. We begin with identification with form, with our body, and we move through these levels to Christ mind, to our total identification with spirit. These are perspectives that invite us into presence, peace, and purpose. And we need to remember that our spiritual development is this gentle unfolding, a very subtle progression. So we often start, when we're thinking about gratitude, we often start with what I call gratitude if or when. And this is situational or conditional gratitude. It's always accompanied by a sense of relief. It's those moments when we have we have to go to the doctor for a biopsy, and we find out when the biopsy is returned that it's non-malignant, that there's no cancer. And so we feel relief and gratitude for dodging that bullet, if you will. It's those times when we're looking at a bank account and we're seeing rent is due and we're not sure how we're going to make rent. And so we say some prayers and we do our manifestation practices, and then the money shows up. And so we're grateful. In this level of gratitude, we have not escaped our egoic thinking, and we're still desiring external validation. And then we move to what I call another level, but it's just a stage. I mean, the Course teaches us there is no order of difficulty in miracles, so we really can't speak of levels of gratitude either, because all expressions of love are maximal. But gratitude 4 is what we do in our gratitude practices. It's when we keep our gratitude journals. This has a little bit more perspective and purpose, but we're saying, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my 4-legged fur babies, right? So it's another sort of level of gratitude, an extension of that first level. And the third level of gratitude is what I thought was the highest level. And then I had a conversation with a friend, and we discovered there was a 4th level, which I'm going to share in a minute. But the third level is that beautiful practice of being grateful in all things. And in this stage, gratitude is the choice. It's sort of leaning into that expectant faith. We're grateful even when there's no evidence in our external circumstances that things have changed. We're just grateful that we have a God that breathes us every day, that we never are outside of the presence of God. And it's sort of that scripture that says all things work together for good for those who love God. For me, this level of gratitude is that space of allowing and just the complete surrender to God and just accepting whatever shows up. And from the Course we read, what could you not accept if you knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? And so at this third level of gratitude, we're sort of leaning into that teaching. And then what I've discovered is the highest level of gratitude is what I call gratitude is. And this is when gratitude becomes our essence, without object or without reason. And it grows from a deep knowing of who you are and whose you are. When I remember that love created me like itself, I no longer need to look for things to be grateful for. Gratitude becomes and has always been our natural condition, independent of external circumstances. Gratitude simply is. And when I can lean into this, I understand what the Course teaches in lesson 198. Love is the way I walk in gratitude. So it's been 25 years since I prayed that first prayer of gratitude, that prayer of thank you, from a place of complete brokenness. But as I look back on my life, I see that my life has been this beautiful love story of a God, a Holy Spirit, who has never stopped courting me. As a gay child, from the moment I realized I was gay, I felt marginalized by the church. I was awkward as a youth. I know that's hard to believe because I present as such a stud these days. But back then, I didn't like myself very much. And I was bombarded by messages of all the ways I was not good enough. And the church, which was such an authority in my life, spoke with such just power that, you know, the catechism of the church, the Catholic Church says that homosexuality is intrinsically disordered. And I remember sitting in CCD classes and hearing CCD's catechism for the church, having two teachers that I called the Hallelujah Sisters saying, your sexuality is a gift from God. And then in the next breath saying, homosexuality is an abomination. And asking myself, why did everybody else in this room get a gift? But I was given an abomination. But even then I had glimpses or revelations of being loved. So anyone who knows me for like 2 minutes knows that I'm a massive, huge fan of singer-songwriter Amy Grant's. And I remember I was in high school. It was my junior year, and my friend Debbie Forrester gave me a cassette tape of Amy Grant's collection to listen to. And I kind of knew who she was. I had seen her on the Grammys, but I didn't know her music that well. And I took that cassette home and listened to it. And then I got to side 2. And on that side, Amy Grant sang a song that begins, when the weight of all my dreams is resting heavy on my head, and the thoughtful words of help and hope have all been nicely said. But I'm still hurting, wondering if I'll ever be the one I think I am. Then you gently remind me that you made me from the first. And the more I try to be the best, the more I get the worst. And I realize the good in me is only there because of who you are. And all I ever have to be is what you made me. Any more or less would be a step out of your plan. As you daily recreate me, help me always keep in mind that I only have to do what I can find. And all I ever have to be is what you made me. So I struggled with this dichotomy of the God I knew that I was being taught about in the church, and the God I knew in the silence of my heart. And the God I knew in the silence of my heart was telling me, you're okay. You're okay. And even so, I remember nights going to bed praying that I'd wake up normal or that I would die in my sleep, because I no longer wanted to live this painful existence of not being authentically me. Luckily, God never let me go. And I've now come to understand that I am a unique expression of divine love. and that God, who is non-physical, wants to express God's self through me, as me. There's a beautiful line in the movie Eat, Pray, Love, where Elizabeth Gilbert recognizes God dwells in me as me. So we live this life where we have this crisis of faith. It's not that our faith isn't strong, but we have faith in the status quo. We live in this messy world where we believe in chaos and trauma and competition. We regret our past mistakes. We have intense worries about the future. That's how we live, all of us. But who we are is loved, loved, loved. That's a fact. And it's not contingent on what we do or on what we have. We walk in love and gratitude, and we are met with grace that is sufficient for every moment of our lives. One of my favorite passages of A Course in Miracles is this: if you knew who walks beside you on the way that you have chosen, fear would not be possible. So, in the midst of winter, I discovered there was within me an invincible summer. But what I've learned is that I am that invincible summer. And so are you. And as Maureen says, that's the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. Thank you so much. That was a love story. Beautiful, beautiful love story, and I will be forever grateful that I was here to hear it.
Oh, thank you.
Now we will, for those who are here for the first time, we are not done. We will have the community offering, and we'll be back to have a conversation with Jerome. I pass to Mari.
Yes, thank you, Jerome. I am looking forward to our conversation. So yes, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, so stick around. SpeakEasy is a non-for-profit virtual spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. Your generous donations help us to bring spiritual leaders, artists such as Derek, and speakers to Sunday service and keep important conversations going. As you were spiritually fed by today's conversation, I invite you to go within, see what is yours to share. No gift is too small. All contributions are tax deductible here in the United States, and you will see the link in the chat for a donation. Otherwise, you can always go to our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari.
I just wanted to add also that this month our tithe will be going to PFLAG, which helps parents navigate the classroom of raising LGBT children. So thanks for your generosity in helping us support them.
Thank you, Maureen. Now, I'm waiting for my spotlight.
You're on.
Now it's time for the truly unique experience of SpeakEasy Sunday service, which is our community conversation. This is where we invite you to speak easily, find your voice and your truth, and share your thoughts, inspirations, awareness, and your questions with the community. When you feel called to share a question or a comment, just raise your virtual hand, which is located in the bottom of your screen, Reactions tab. Please also note that to leave your video on when doing so, as we want to know and see you. And I'll get us started. As I said before, Jerome, this was such a beautiful love story that you shared with us. And as we plunge forward, I want to thank you for, you hear the word about authenticity, living with authenticity and authentically all the time. But you've demonstrated so well what that means. And you demonstrated for me the pain that a person would be in not being able to live authentically. Because authenticity to me means you mean what you say and you say what you mean. But if you're not being you, then you never get a chance to do that. So I thank you for that awareness. Your levels of sharing on gratitude were amazing. So my question is, how do you feel about authenticity now that you've had a chance to really share it with other people?
Yeah, I think it's so important. It's like our superpower, right? We like we was mentioned in the intro, I try really hard to live a place of just radical acceptance of myself and others. And I tried living out inauthentically as for 31 years, right? And I was authentic to a point, right? But I think we all live in closets, right? When you're a gay person, it's a little bit different, but we all live in closets. We all have parts of ourselves that we hide. We think, ooh, this would be, too much for people to know about me, you know. And I just think that when you remember that you're an expression of the divine and that there's nothing about you that's a surprise to God. God knows everything about us. And our authenticity is our gift to one another. I love that passage from A Return to Love. That's quoted all the time. That talks about, it's our light we fear more than our darkness, and that we're called to be manifestations of God, and that hiding our light is not what we're called to do. So much of what we think nobody else can handle is our light. That's the best part of us. When I came out, I had conversations with people, and I said, the things you love about me, the things you love most about me are because I'm gay. It's just those are the authentic parts of me. And I lived for a long time wanting to change, wanting to be different, praying that, and saying to people, if I could change this about myself, I would. I've now moved to a place where it's like, no way, not in a million years. I wouldn't change a single thing about me. Not a single thing. Not even being gay, as hard as it's been, it's also been really beautiful. And those struggles were such lessons in forgiveness and acceptance. And so that's where I'm at today. And so throw those closet doors wide open, people. Come out. Come out into the light.
Thank you.
Whatever your closet is.
Beautiful answer. Justine has her hand up.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm on my phone.
Yes.
And so beautiful. Jerome, I love you so much. And I'm eternally grateful that the universe and God brought us together to study with another mentor. And I found out very early on that Jerome was a master of the Course in Miracles, which I have dabbled in. And I don't know what has happened, but our hearts are inextricably linked now. And your story that I have heard many times now, always teaches me something new about myself, and that the hiding that I believe every single one of us goes through on some level, to turn to authenticity. And as we get older, it just seems it becomes a little bit easier, but it's still always really scary to continually step out and tell our story. And I'm forever aware now how important it is that we do tell our story. And so, and I always do hear something new. And, you know, today, the immense being amidst the invincible summer, winter is your invincible summer, as I am here in San Francisco. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, the coldest winter I ever spent was the summer in San Francisco.
Mark Twain.
Today is beautiful, and it's a beautiful place to be at Pride Month. And so I don't know that there's a question there necessarily. I just want to acknowledge your knowledge in the course. I turn to Jerome all the time. I have, and you should too. in your knowledge of, or being able to turn a phrase or go to a phrase. So maybe you can explain how you catalog some of this stuff in your brain, because it's really beautiful.
My mind is a steel trap. I don't know why. I've always just had a really good memory. But Justine, I want to bring forward into this, you know, the work you do. So we all live our authenticity in drips and drabs, right? But the work you're doing is so beautiful in empowering people to own their voice, to speak their truth, because we live authentically, like I said, up to a point, but sometimes we're not willing to say that hard thing. There's always that little piece, right? And so the work you're doing with helping people, the empowered voice is really beautiful too, because I want to live. I mean, I'm 56. I had a conversation with my friend Camille recently about life, and like, we're in our mid-50s. How much time do we have left? Really? I don't want to live a day more not saying what I feel in the most loving and kind way possible, right? Not wearing what the hell I want to wear, being ashamed. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at these days. And I appreciate your work, Justine, so much. And I love you too, as you know.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but I just want to share San Francisco with you. So, mwah.
Thank you, Justine. Maureen.
Hi there. Let's see. My question, first of all, thank you so much. I so appreciate your story. And I got the idea again, was like, we're only as sick as our secrets, and what are the secrets that we're not willing to tell? And, being in the Midwest, I've met a lot of people who are closeted, which I didn't, like, coming from Los Angeles. I was like, is that still a thing? Like, I was like, are we still doing cocaine? Like, I thought that was like way from the 80s, So, and when I first encountered that, to tell you the completely transparent truth, I was like, what the ever living F? Like, you're part of the problem. Like, come out wherever you are. You can't do that for somebody, but you also can't judge somebody in that. Like, I recognized that after my indignation, that it was like, this is not an easy thing to do. And everybody gets to bloom at the pace that feels most organic and safe for them. So it was just a revelation that I had, and not too long ago, and embarrassingly, because I think for many of us, like, the secrets that we have no problem telling, we feel like, well, everyone should tell that secret because we have no problem with it, but I don't know what you have a block around. I don't know where you've been. I don't know the doctrines or the gospels that have, silenced you to such a degree that you can't even find your voice. I don't know that. And I'm not going to assume that I do know that. And I'm not going to assume that it's easy. It does sadden me, as I'm sure it saddens you, to hear or see somebody who's not allowing themselves to fully, bloom or be transparent. So one thing that I know is that there are programs like the 12-step for people who have to announce things to the world, that you don't have to announce it to the grand public, but you can say in a safe, closed meeting, I'm an alcoholic. And that can be a declaration that can transform your life. And as I'm sure, like, I'm gay can be a declaration that they can transform your life. Are there places like that for coming out? And how did you come out? And what made it safe to come out?
Yeah, so I don't know if there are places they should exist. And I'm glad you brought that forward because I do think it's important. And as much as I felt empowered by coming out, you're right, there are places in the world where it's not safe, you know? And so the biggest thing is to come out to ourselves, I think is important to be, to tell the truth to ourselves. My coming out story is kind of interesting because I didn't come out after I was fired from my job. You'd think it would have been that was the moment. That was March. It was September when I finally came out, September 7th. So there was still a long period of that time when I was still denying who I was. My coming out was interesting. I had met a guy that I knew before I was married, and we reconnected after my wife had left and we were close to the finalization of the divorce. And I reconnected with him and realized that we were probably going to start dating and maybe live together. And I couldn't do that without being honest with my family. So I called my big sister, and she was the first person I told. And so I shared with her the news, which wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to most people who knew me. In fact, the joke was like, oh, we were more surprised to hear you were getting married than to know you're gay. But it was one of those things we all kind of knew, but we never talked about it, right? So I told my big sister, and she called me back and she said, after we'd hung up the phone, she said, we need to tell mom and dad. I said, yeah, we do. And she said, I think I should tell them. So, because we weren't sure, my dad was a very stubborn German man and very, we weren't sure how he was going to take it. And so, Susan said, I'll go over at lunchtime and tell mom and dad when mom comes home for her lunch break. My dad was retired at the time. And so she did. And when she told me she was going to tell them, I said, oh, thank you, because I was hoping you would, because I didn't know that I could say it to them. And I told my sister, I said, when you tell mom not to call me right away, because I need some time just to realize that they know. And lo and behold, like 30 minutes after I got the message from my sister that they had been told, my phone is ringing and it's my mom. And my mom was just like, you're our son. We love you no matter what. I just want you to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first person I told besides my sister was my good friend Amy, because I knew if I told Amy, I could never call her again and say, hey, Amy, I've met a girl, I'm getting married. She'd say, what the fuck are you doing? That's what she would say to me, like, you're gay, no, right? So I started with a few friends, 2 friends, and then my sister. But it was a process. And it was a process for everybody too, because when I came out, then the whole family had to come out.
Right.
And I remember my mom saying to me, we don't need to tell everybody. And I said, okay, mom, that's fine. And I said, but I'm not going to own that shame. It's your shame, it's not mine.
Yeah.
And then over time, we just sort of grew. We grew out of the shame too, and all of the things. It was just like, yeah. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but that's sort of the process.
Yeah. No, it's super helpful because you're right. Like, it's not just the individual coming out, but like, and especially for trans kids, like with the LGBT, well, with LGBT, there's you could be out, but your grandmother doesn't have to know. But when you're transgender, it's totally different,
Totally different.
When my son came out, he was in this theater company, and he was at first every t-shirt he owned was like, your gaydar is correct. Like, everything was like, he was like a walking billboard for his new identity, which was beautiful. But when it came to his theater teacher, he was like, I don't want to play girl roles anymore. And I was like, okay, well, you can have that conversation with her. And he was like, I don't want to have that conversation with her. And I was like, do you want me to have that conversation with her? And he was like, yes. And I felt like I felt like so trusted actually in that moment, that I felt so trusted by him that he could ask me to help him with that. And I had a conversation with her. She was like, no problem whatsoever. But that was something that was hard for him to do, which I would have never thought it was hard for him to do that because he was so expressed already, you know, but that felt hard for him. Maybe like he was letting her down, or maybe that he might be. I don't know what it exactly was. And then there was another time when my mother-in-law said to him, I love you to death, but you're never going to be my grandson. You'll always be my granddaughter. And my family, the rest of my family, was just like a little bit like appalled. And when she left, I said to my son, how did that make you feel? And he said, that was fine. He said, that was fine. She told me, I told her my truth and she told me hers. And I love it.
That's beautiful.
I know. I was like, what the heck, little Buddha? Like, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, because I want to go and fix her and change her. You know what I mean? But there was enough space in the conversation for everyone to have their vantage point and still be okay and still love each other. I don't know. I think there's such facets to the conversation. And I think it really is helpful for us to have grace, to figure out how to have grace, even in the face of somebody's inability to have tolerance, because that's where we're at. Vince is up.
We got Vince next. Hi, Vince.
Hi. I've lived in the Chicago area all my life, and I worked at a university where we did a lot of research on AIDS and HIV and worked with gay and lesbian populations on different projects. And had a lot of coworkers who were gay and lesbian. And that was about 10 years ago. We were doing a survey, it was a campus climate survey with a major university, big football team. It was a big controversy about their football team that they were trying to sweep under the rug. So, we were doing this survey to measure, the attitudes and job satisfaction, things like that. And what we learned in doing this research was that this private university had something on their application where you had to declare your sexual orientation. And if you said you were gay, they wouldn't hire you. And if you lied, if they found out later that you were gay, then it was immediately grounds for dismissal. And I was stunned. That's not over there. That's here in this country. And, you think you're surrounded by, metropolitan ideas or cosmic, and you don't understand this is going on right under your nose.
Yeah, and the pendulum is swinging. I mean, I think we were at a place of much greater acceptance and tolerance. And I don't necessarily like the word tolerance, because I think if we tolerate things, we're sort of still holding it apart from us and saying, I'll put up with you. But at least that's the starting point, right? We had more. And then our political climate has changed so much where it's now okay again to not hire people or fire people. And there's still recourse, but it feels like it's a fight again. And it's hard. It's hard. And, and even harder, as Maureen brought forward for our trans folks, and it's heartbreaking that we have to live in this world. But that's why I'm so glad we have A Course in Miracles and we have groups like this, right? Because in those situations, we can always be the presence of the alternative. And we don't necessarily even have to say anything, but we just bring forward the energy of love and be in that space. And when we show up with love, then it's a different story.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Does anyone else have a question for Jerome or comment? Or, by the way, Jerome, I don't know if you can see the chat. It's been beautiful. Yeah.
I haven't looked.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you again, Jerome, for
Oh, I
your.
think Anita has something.
I'm sorry.
Anita, 33444. There we go.
Okay. Oh, here's another question. Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I met Jerome about 20 years ago when he moved to the Bay Area. I grew up in San Francisco, which is supposed to be a very accepting place. And I'm 64 now, 20 years later, I'm still learning, how difficult it is for so many to accept us being authentic and how more than ever it's so important for us to be our authentic selves because that's the only way that people will see that expression of divinity that's only comes through us individually, each one of us. And when I met Jerome, um, I just, I thought, who is this funny guy, this little guy next to him, my best friend, and just instantly knew that we would be lifelong friends. I just felt this just intuitive hit. And we have been good friends. He's been there for me, in the depths of my lows and um, my highest high. He married my husband and me, and I love Jerome so much. He is the expression of light and God in my life. It's a best friend and a great person. And I'm just crying because I feel that love in Jerome. And my son, who's now trans, so just getting used to saying my daughter, we learn through our children, through our best teachers. And, we think we know everything, but we learn something new from them. And so, listen to the children. We're the light. These people on this group, we're the expression that are willing to share our light and help this world feel lighter. And it's so needed right now, especially. I'm so happy, to be here with you guys and share that love that, I get from Jerome. And excuse the crying. It's bliss. It's love. It's connecting. It's connecting with people like Jerome. I just wanted to share, how much he's meant to me. And
Back at you,
we'll
Anita.
continue.
Right back at you, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that share. Now we will be blessed with another song from Derek Webb. And I can hardly wait to hear it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was that was beautiful. I will try to just make sure we stay right at that level. I'm going to put the lyrics to this song as well in the chat if that's helpful for anybody who might not catch all of these. But this is I'm going to finish with a song that's called "This May Be the Time to Close Your Eyes," which Jerome and I talked about. So here it is. Headlines scream and voices fly like sling and stone. The hate they wield, a sharpened knife, it cuts the hope. The twist, the truth, they spread the fear to hide the lie. When the world feels dark and the path unclear, you realize, child, this may be the time to close your eyes. Imagination banned for all the books you've read. They misdirect with trigger words and bullet breath. a broken song of rights denied. And they build their walls around your heart in crooked lines. Child, this may be the time to close your eyes. And the preachers rage and the pundits sneer, a war of words. And they twist religion, make it hate, they lock the doors. And their moral high ground planted flags, their martyrs' cries. And they judge and scorn and fail to see the rainbow skies. Child, this may be the time to close your eyes. But listen softly for the sound, the burning fuse, igniting painters, activists, prophets bringing news of family stories, hearts and minds opening wide. And the hopes of all the painted bruises realized. Of all God's children's thriving lives, may this be the day. Of husbands, husbands, wives and wives, may this be the day. When beauty's beauty and love is love, may this be the day. Thank God you're safe and you're enough. May this be the day. When all the faceless hear their names, let this be the night. When all the shapeless rest in frames, may this be the night. When all the tears are wiped away, let this be the night. When all true justice falls like rain, let this be the night. Oh child, this may be the time. Open up your eyes. Open up your eyes. Oh, open up your eyes. Open up your eyes.
Woo!
Oh, Derek, that was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for blessing us with your music this Sunday. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Jerome, thank you for your sermon that will never be forgotten. And with that, we will close this service, but we will see you all here next Sunday. Have a blessed and lovely week, and we love you all.
Thank
God
you so
bless.
much, everyone.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.